Let's remain standing as I invite a true son of the soil, my good friend, Brother Pereira, to come to open us with a word of prayer.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for that welcome. Let us bow our heads. Dear Lord, thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you again for bringing us together here tonight as a group, as fellow Tobagonians, as brothers and sisters. In one direction, Lord, we are moving, and I ask you, O Lord, to let your presence be filling this place here tonight so that we will be able to deliberate according to your will, in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Before you take your seats, we're here this evening because we want to have somewhat community conversations. But we're having community conversations with friends, some family, some P&M people. So before you have your seat, just quickly move around to about 2 or 3 people and greet them with a good handshake, a smile, a hug. Let the love start from the word go. Yeah? DJ, run something in the meantime now, man. Let me fill this place with laughter and with love. Dave, what are you doing, man?
I love you, Lord, for your mercies never failed me all my days.
Sing it, sing it.
I've been
Don't be afraid.
in your hand.
From the moment that I wake
From
up.
the moment that I wake up until I lay my
Sing it,
head.
sing it, sing it, people, sing it.
Oh, I will sing
Of the goodness of God.
goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you
Oh,
have
yes.
been faithful.
I'm sure many of us can testify to this evening.
All my life you have been so
He's been so good.
good.
Yeah.
With every breath that I am able,
Oh, yes.
oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Amen.
I love your voice.
Let's keep singing as we welcome Karen Forbes into the fold.
And in darkest nights, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend.
As we continue to lift up
I have lived
our voices.
in the goodness of God.
This evening we are joined by a number of
'Cause all
our
my
prospective candidates.
Does anybody else
We see
have
the
that
infamous
testimony
Harvest
today?
God,
All my
Mr. McEwen,
have been so
Mr. Guy, along with Brian Harris, Dominic Kerr, Dexter Miller, Petal, Daniel, Benoit, Shawnee John, our very own minority leader, Assemblyman Kelvin Morris. And this is indeed the atmosphere that we want to begin this evening with. An atmosphere of praise, an atmosphere of thankfulness, an atmosphere of love. You may have your seats. Are we happy to be here this evening? That was a good warm-up. Are we happy to be here this evening? Because the common thing that brings us together is not just the love of God, but also the love of this great party called the People's National Movement. Yeah? And this evening, we have been going through our conversations with various communities. And we are in a community now that causes all of us to stand and take note and to join us this evening on that conversation, or to carry us through that conversation. We have two individuals. Say two. Say two. Nice. And the good thing about having the two is because we always want to put God in the center, because our threefold cord is not easily broken. So this evening, as I prepare to bring the first individual on who will be carrying our conversations, I want to take us down the road of a great boxer. One of the hallmarks of a very good boxer is having both hands that you could throw two punches. So when you throw a right, you could follow up with a left. And this evening, indeed, we have a double punch to offer to Tobago, to offer to the community of Buku, to offer to the electoral district. Even the weather endorsing what I just said. We see the rains come down again. So as I am about to introduce this young man, this is a young man who stepped into the public life in 2021. First time into the game, thinking that, well, okay, he's coming into this thing to learn and to be mentored, as he was for years under a very, very prominent member of the People's National Movement. But waking up one morning to realize that one definitely had to be enough. And since then, he began his journey with the grace of God on his side and the support of those who stood around him. New to assemblyman duties, but also new to the duties of the minority leader. Folks, this evening I feel proud to say that we have seen Assemblyman Kelvon Morris grow in leaps and bounds. He has represented this party with distinction. He has fought in the corner and come out winning. He has pushed back those who sought to fight against him and to fight against this party, and more so to fight against the people of Tobago. Because any fight against the People's National Movement is a fight against the people of Tobago. And you know that? Because the People's National Movement is the only political entity that has taken care of the people of Tobago. So this evening I want us to welcome this young man who is going to be part of the leading of this evening's conversation. Assemblyman Kelvon Morris, our very own minority leader.
Yes, yeah. We got this. Hey.
DJ, I find that song come on kind of weak.
Hey. Hey.
How you going, brother? So, folks, the other punch, and for those who are avid boxers or following boxing, many great boxers will always tease you with the short jab. But that short jab is really to set you up for the knockout punch. Kelvon, you know that? Yeah, they tease you, they box you, they touch you, push you into the corner. And for almost 4 years, the minority leader has been pushing this administration into a corner. Sometimes they scream out, sometimes they throw a tantrum, sometimes they attack him. It never caused him to fail. It never caused him to back down. But what they didn't realize is that it was just simply a setup. He was pushing them into the corner and pushing them back so that when the time is right, and might I say the time is now right. When the time is right, the knockout punch would have been delivered. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stand this evening for me. This evening, we are here in the electoral district of the knockout punch. Say knockout. Say knockout. Watch your neighbor and tell them knockout. This evening, we are here with the knockout punch man. The man that will come and lead a team that will not just annihilate the TPP, that will not just build back Tobago, but will set the foundation for the legacy of the People's National Movement for the generation to come. Just as the generation that has gone before knows about that legacy, a new generation shall get the experience of that legacy that is to become and that is to be built. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening, come on, let me see a little bit of excitement. DJ, let me get something. I want us to welcome this evening 𝐁𝐿, 𝐁𝐿, the Ripper, Dennis!
I cannot wait for election.
Knockout!
Tell them why. I dipping down to me elbow, darling. From Space to Canaan, we making it through this moment. You are the reason. Higher than higher heights is our limit. So we ain't leaving. No one behind, we will not desert you. Come on, protect the future. I know we can do this thing. Yeah. So right now, let me fix up.
Well, you know I don't like on top that lectern. But even more so, let me step down so that the men of honor who are being featured today could take their rightful place. Say rightful place. Now look at them two young men. Who say the PNM men are quality, boy? Watch at that. Wait till we see up there. That is quality. That is class. And I love that. Nowhere have we before seen such quality, class, intelligence, and good sound individuals in the political arena. The Tobago Council of the People's National Movement has produced this. Young men who have come through the ranks. They didn't wake up yesterday and decide that, hey, we want to do this thing. You know. They came through the ranks. They were groomed. They were cultivated in the People's National Movement. I am sorry that we don't have some video, because I had some shots of these two young men as very, very young men when they now started off. And some of you all will laugh because you'll realize that they get fat. they get fat. You understand what I'm saying? But that is not fat because everything hunky-dory. That is fat because they working. They have to walk so much, they have to go in the gym to build stamina. So they put on some pounds to be able to fight. And remember what we say, the first punch is the bait, the second punch is the knockout. This evening I want to invite these young men, firstly the minority leader, to give us a nice little introduction about who he is. Everybody know him already, you know. But it has some things about some people that you doesn't know. Sometimes the journey, you don't understand it, but when you hear them explain, you know why it is they produce the way they produce today. Let's welcome the minority leader as he introduces himself.
So, let me say a special good night and thank the political leader for the invitation to take the seat here tonight in Buku. Recognize our political leader, Brother 𝐁𝐿 Dennis. Fellow candidates who are here tonight with us, our PNM family here in Buku and traveling from outside, welcome to this live session here in Buku. And of course, Marilyn put me on the spot, and when Marilyn is with a mic, you have to be careful. But, you know, tonight is a night where it's really a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be here and to recognize the leadership of Mr. 𝐁𝐿 Dennis. Because, you know, for me, Buku is known, one, for its majestic Buku Beach, the world-famous Buku Reef, and then we have the youngest elected ever era representative assemblyman, the youngest ever appointed Chief Secretary in Mr. Ansel Dennis. And may I say, I believe also the youngest ever political leader of the Tobago Council of the People's National Movement. And for you here in Boko, you have a son of the soil who indeed you should be extremely proud. And we here in Tobago, I as a PNM member, young man myself, I too am extremely proud in the leadership qualities of Mr. Dennis. And you know, myself having to step into the role of minority leader as a young man myself, I can tell you, leadership at any level is not easy. And you know, they say, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And it's easy for persons on the outside to simply believe that you should do X or you should do Y or you should go up or you should go down. But when you are entrusted with that responsibility of making the decisions, it requires a steady head, it requires a lot of knowledge, and I've seen firsthand. You know, I take nothing for granted in the kind of maturity that this young man sitting on my right hand as a leader. And the way he has taken on this role of leading the People's National Movement in a period of extreme difficulty, in a period where it has been made even more difficult to be a PNM, because once people recognize those on the upper side, you hear the description. They describe people who support the PNM in the worst ways. They call us red devils. They use the stink and dirty. I'm seeing secretaries saying this about fellow Tobagonians. And we have seen from the very beginning, perhaps a week, just 1 week, their seat didn't even warm yet properly. And without any iota of justification, persons who were believed to be PNM were fired, dismissed, without even a care of how they would feed their loved ones. I recall just as we enter Christmas, it was last year, many Tobagonians working at the Division of Settlements received on the eve, literally on the eve of Christmas Eve, letters telling them their jobs will no longer be required. Imagine getting a termination letter on the day before Christmas, and you now have to think about going to treat with your family. And therefore, this is the kind of conditions and situations that Mr. Dennis had to lead a people that is now worried about showing their face and associating, and now having to carry the load when the hands in a real sense were few. I remember the days when it's just a couple of us having to file questions and come up with the questions and motions and dealing with the budget. And therefore, you know, I want to really applaud you, Mr. Dennis, in this period for holding the fort and bringing us to this point. And I think we all should recognize him tonight. So, with those few short words, but I want to say something just before I hand over. As you said, you wanted to know something about me, perhaps that you didn't know. Boko, Coral Gardens to be specific, was indeed my holiday home. So during the period Easter, half of July, and some of Christmas, because I had 3 very close relatives who resided in Coral Gardens. 2 of my aunts and 1 a very close family. So I got to see under the People's National Movement firsthand the transformation of this village that we all love and come to know as Boko, moving from just having Sunday school down by the very waterfront that we now appreciate to the expansiveness of Sunday school. I remember when we used to come down to the mango tree there by the school when it didn't have no fence, and it was more a crab catching place where we'd come and catch crab, and even run on where now is the goat racing facility and all that. That is where we used to get crab in the hole and all of those things. So I've seen how the PNM has moved Boko, and I've seen the work of this young man in bringing to Boko real development by a real administration that care about real people.
Let's hear it again. Kelvon Morris. Daryl Springwim, for those of you who are not too sure. So next we're going to have another introduction. And I want us to understand the introduction of this gentleman. This is somebody that I'm sure many of you would have seen in the bank a number of years ago. May have served some of you all in customer service from behind the counter. You would have come in and looked at him as simple. But there's something called destiny. That same young man who stood behind the counter in the bank, Nashi, as I said earlier, they put on weight. So, Nashi, young man, and was taken out from behind that counter because the leaders in the People's National Movement had vision. And they saw something in that young man that they could have taken him out and put him into the fray. And he won that first battle. And you know what it does say about victory when you taste it the first time? It has got appetite for it. And he developed the appetite. And this evening, I want to say unequivocally that appetite is only greater than it was when he came out of that bank. And it is that appetite that is going to take us forward into victory on the battlefield. Let's hear from Mr. Ansel Dennis, who he is and where he came from. Let's welcome him.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Home. Boko is in fact home. And Boko, Mount Pleasant, Keenan, and other areas of the district is in fact a place where we have good people that I love and that I've served before and that I'm looking forward to serving again. So it is a pleasure to be home, and here with me is the minority leader and our distinguished candidate for Daryl Springwim. And you know, he was trying to tell us that he is partly a Boko man based on the time that he spent in Boko during holiday periods. But it's a pleasure to be here in the land of the living, and I am thankful to Almighty God for the fact that we are all here living in this very interesting and important time, not just to the people of this island, but to the people of this country. And I want to start by, just telling you a bit about my history. Because as I sit here, I'm actually having very vivid memories of my life growing up in Boko, starting off as a toddler in Smithfield Kindergarten School, being driven to school on a daily basis by a lady called Miss Yvonne. I think she has since died several years ago. And from Smithfield Kindergarten, I went to Boko Government Primary School. And most people from Boko will tell you that back then, when they wanted to embarrass or insult you or call you stupid or dunce, they will say that you went to Boko school. Because Boko had no school at one point in time. But I am a proud product of Boko Government Primary School. And I had some very good teachers that really helped to shape me into the young man that I am today. 𝐁𝐿𝐮𝐜𝐜𝐿 Calendar, may God continue to bless his soul, was the principal during my time. Miss Joyce Prescott, one of the strictest disciplinarians that I've met in my life. She carried me through my common entrance period. People like Miss Janet Smith, Miss Danielle, Mr. Balfour in the late half. And there is an interesting lady called Miss Marjorie Moore, because Miss Marjorie Moore taught me in school, and today she's teaching my children in the same school. So it's quite interesting, because it means that she has been around a long time, but she doesn't look it. And I'm sure she might be looking at this meeting this evening. But it wasn't only about the teachers in school. It was also about this community called Buku. Because my mother is here. Give her a round of applause. Mrs. Gloria Dennis. And my father, as I've said before, was from Mason Hall. My father died in 2015, which of course was a very difficult period for me. My grandmother was Milita Sandy, and my grandfather, whom I did not have the privilege to meet because he died before I was born, was a guy called Ely Sandy. And therefore, it means that I'm related to the Solomons, and I have a lot of relatives in Buku. But family relations or not, Buku was a place where we respected that whole idea that it takes a community to raise a child. And I remember walking through these streets on a daily basis, making the journey home from school. Well, even before you get home from school, you had to get to school. So we walked to school with the other children. Of course, it was a short walk, because I grew up right on Sandy Street, which is the street after this one by the community center there. And we will walk to school. There was always strict discipline, because back then, students and children got their tails cut. And somebody found it was a good idea to stop that. And, well, I would not say that it is the reason why we have so many problems, but I am sure many of you may draw that conclusion. But the first Buku school wasn't like this one. As Kelvin said before, it was an open property, wasn't fenced. It was a smaller school, and it was surrounded by swamp. And I remember running away at lunchtime to go into the swamp. We will catch the small crabs, put them in bottles. We will also catch tadpoles, put them in bottles. And during that time, guys like Sen and Tyers and K2, those were the guys that were in Buku school at the time. And Leron Lizama, we call him Redo. He has another name that I will not say here, but we call him Redo. And we had good times at school, fun times, but at the same time, we were under the guidance of some very effective teachers, and therefore we were properly educated and greatly impacted when it came to discipline and having integrity. And I really want to thank those teachers who really contributed to my early development in Buku Government Primary School. But we got licks at times, of course, because we had this habit where we would go to the swamp, catch crab, and by the time you come from the swamp, you'll be 2 inches taller, because under your school shoe will be at least 2 inches of mud. And then we will go into the school compound, right on the cobwall, right on the pavement, bordering the entrance into the classrooms, and you will scrape the mud off right there and create a whole mess. And the teachers didn't always respond kindly to that. And therefore, we got our tails cut. Another thing we got licks for was sweaty backs. Because the teachers back then believed that, yes, you should play, you should exercise, and you should have as much physical activity as possible during your lunchtime, but you should know when to stop. And you must stop in time to have a cool-off period so that you don't come into the classroom smelling like a ramgoat, is what they used to say back then. So I remember Mr. Calendar will say, all who have sweaty backs step out, because they have the line. And nobody will step out. And Mr. Calendar will actually walk through that line and inspect backs. And if your back was sweaty, you had to step forward. One shot across your back, and you step back. So, you know next time, if you don't want to get a shot across your back, stop 10 minutes before and cool out. And eventually we developed a habit where we will actually unbutton the shirts. Because of course we had our vests under the shirts, and ensure that we shake and allow some ventilation to go through our clothing, so that we will go inside the classrooms with dry backs. Such was the discipline back then. But as I said, it was also about persons in the community. I had some very effective godparents, Miss Beryl Trim, may God continue to bless her soul, Pastor Rebecca Roberts, she's still alive and well. She is also my godparent. But godparent or not, on the streets I encountered people like Miss Janice, Miss Gemma, Roseanne, and all of them are here, were my very good neighbors. Miss Odette, a lady who I love and admire, very softly spoken, and I remember every time she see me in the street, she would say, Ansel. So those were the people that really kept me on the street and narrow. But before I depart those childhood experiences, I have to talk about my experience with the guys. Because my mom back then worked an MTS job, and my father was also a police officer. So of course, there were times when they will be at work, and I will be in the care of Auntie Beryl, or sometimes my sister who is here as well, Roxanne. But I often found a way to run away and go in the sea. And it is something that a lot of children in Buku would have done. And I'm happy that happened, because it was how I learned to swim. We did not have the YMCA pool in Blackrock now, and the one in Kendall now, that the young people today must be thankful for, thanks to the People's National Movement. So how we learn to swim? As a child, you play man, run away, you go in the sea. And there were guys down there, like Kuku and others. Kuku and Million and them guys will throw you off the jetty. And if you look like you go jump in for you. But the amazing thing is that, notwithstanding how many times you were thrown off the jetty, you will still make your way back down there to be thrown off the jetty again, until you eventually learned to swim. And I was able to swim before I was 9 years old. I was able to go to the beach, swim out to some of the nearest boats and back. And I remember back then we had swimming competitions. Now, of course, was a young lady called Alana Toby, daughter of Mary Toby. And therefore, that was my first experience in the workplace, having to come on time, serve people diligently and honestly, and so on. And after 6 months in the bank, in the credit union, I went off to Republic Bank, where I stayed from 19th of September 2005 to January sometime, I can't remember the exact date, 2013. So I spent a total of 8 years in the bank. And those were some good years. Because for me and my life, it was always about being of service to people. And therefore, I enjoyed the opportunity to help people while working in the bank. In fact, my favorite day in the bank, I used to look forward to the first and the second day in the month when them sweet old pensioners get the checks and they come to the bank to cash their pension checks. And I recall the glee in their faces when they come to the bank and they say the boy, because the pension line used to be mine. And anybody who knew me in the bank, I was extremely fast in my service in terms of putting the information into the system. And people look on in amazement. So when other tellers were taking 5 minutes to do a transaction, in that 5 minutes, I might process about 5 transactions. But I was so hell-bent on ensuring that the senior citizens did not spend too long in the bank. So you know what I used to do? I would take the checks, process the checks, put it aside, and do that for every pensioner. And then when the bank closes, then I will process all those checks, sometime not leaving the bank until after 5 in the afternoon. And what that did is that it reduced the waiting time of those senior citizens. And interestingly, when I got into politics, when I was selected by this great party to represent this great district sometime in December of 2012, during my walks and my interactions with the community, I met many, many persons who I served at the bank. And interestingly, while walking recently, I met a lady who is now in her 90s. And I had to congratulate her. Because normally when I meet some of the seniors, they don't always remember certain things. And that lady who lives on Golden Grove Road was able to tell me that she didn't talk about politics. She told me nothing about being the former area rep or being the former chief secretary. She went straight to saying to me, I remember you from the bank and you used to cash my pension checks. And I remember the time when I used to get the $20 and you used to refuse it. She remembered all of that. And therefore, for me, my life has always been about service, because it wasn't just the bank. I served in various capacities in the church as well. The first church I attended was that church right on the corner in KD Street, Buku Wesleyan Holiness Church, which became Buku Jesus Life Worship Center. And I remember from a very young age, my mother would dress me in these yang pants and some nice shirts and walk me halfway through the track, because there was a shortcut between Sandy Street and KD Street. So she will walk me halfway through the track, and then somebody from the church will come and meet me halfway and carry me to church. And of course, today I am grateful for that foundation. But later on, I got to understand why my mother diligently and deliberately took that action. It was because when I was born, 3 months later, at the age of 3 months, the doctors had written me off. I was home, turned blue, went to the hospital, got examined, spent several weeks in the hospital, ended up in Trinidad, and they said to my mother, this child will not live unless his heart is changed, because the heart he having good. The muscles are weak, underdeveloped at the age of 3 months, and therefore a heart transplant had to be done. And of course, efforts were made by this community, the same Beryl Trim who was my godmother, and others. I suspect that every member of this community back then was involved in those efforts to raise funds for me to get this heart transplant. Until at some point in time, my mother said to herself and maybe to her God that, well, one of the conditions of the heart transplant was obviously, even if you get it, there are no guarantees that you will live beyond a certain age. And my mother at some point in time decided that, look, she ain't going that route. She will trust in God. And she made a commitment to God that if you save this child's life, I will give him back to you. So, along the way, and I remember making several trips to Trinidad, Mount Hope Hospital, flying on the plane. Back then it was BW. I remember the TriStar jet like it was yesterday, with 2 engines on the wings and 1 on top. I remember the Air Caribbean plane that always felt like it was dropping out of the sky, because I had to make regular trips to Trinidad, to Mount Hope, to see a doctor by the name of Diane Alexander, spend whole day in Mount Hope, stay by Uncle Junior in Trinidad, come back to Tobago. And we did that. That was the routine until age 12, when the doctor said, things are looking pretty normal here. And therefore we could stop the medications and we could decrease the visits to once a year. And once a year turned to a perfectly healthy man with a perfectly healthy heart. But I'm happy that my mother held her end of the bargain and ensured that religiously every Sunday, although she wasn't going to church, she wasn't coming. I mean, she's in church now, but back then she wasn't coming. But she made sure she sent me. And if I'm not mistaken, it used to be the same pants every Sunday. But I was in church. And I grew up in the church. I was developed in the church. I became youth leader in that church. I learned to play the drums in that church. From playing the drums in that church, I became part of several gospel bands and even secular bands through the foundation in that church. I learned public speaking in that church. I had a guy back then that was very close to me, a guy by the name of 𝐁𝐿 𝐿, who was very eloquent. And I always listened to him and tried to be as eloquent as he was. And that was part of my foundation. And of course, I eventually became a youth pastor in another church, mentoring other young people, serving other people, and ensuring that I did my contributions to the upliftment of others on this island. So I did not require office to be of service. And as I pledged to the people of Buku Mount Pleasant and to the people of Tobago, I remember saying to them, it was a Channel 5 interview with Brother B, who I'm hearing now might be a TPP candidate. But I said to Brother B, and some of you may remember, that it is important to fall in love with service and not office. Because the time will come when you will be out of office. And once your love is about service, when in fact you are out of office, then you will continue to be of service. And I am proud to say that I have lived that. Because, of course, came into office in 2013, won by over 1,000 votes, 1,802, and my opponent got 700, and I used to remember the exact number, but it's beating me now. But won that seat by over 1,000 votes, and we won the election by a landslide, against all odds, because I remember being in that campaign as a youngster, 25 years of age, could barely talk properly on the people platform. Okay, I wasn't that bad. I was all right. But very inexperienced, politically green, and introduced to people who outside of Buku, and the few pensioners and customers that I encountered at the bank did not know me very well. But the party took a gamble, because back then all they wanted to know, do you have any skeletons in your closet? That was the question. And if you have no skeletons, the next question people might ask is, he could talk? Because people wanted to know that you could talk to represent them. And then when you go on the platform, they say, he could talk, but the party took a gamble on me as a young person coming into the youth league, not very well known. I didn't have any big credentials next to my name. All I had, all I came with, was a heart of love and a heart of service, and of course a track record of service. So won that first election, and at that point I was a very good boy. After 4 years in office, by that time I was not such a very good boy, because by then in some people's mouths, and we have to acknowledge that in Tobago we have some very dangerous people. So after 4 years, I was corrupt, I was this, I was called all sorts of things. But I remained steadfast to my principles. I did not allow what people said about me to distract me. In 2017, I ran again. Won again by a comfortable margin. Then, of course, I had the opportunity to serve as the youngest chief secretary in the Tobago House of Assembly. And that was the biggest challenge of my life. And sometimes in my quiet times, I say to myself that that was perhaps the biggest mistake of my life. Because serving as chief secretary, in case you don't know, is an extremely difficult task. And somebody said, I think it was Marilyn who said that back then I was nashy. When I became chief secretary, I lost weight. Because I went to bed most times 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And it wasn't because I couldn't sleep. But I'll let you in a bit on what the job of chief secretary, or being a good chief secretary, requires. Now, I made my telephone number public again on an interview with Brother B. So therefore, on any given day, by the time my day ended, and this is no joke, by the time my day ended, I will have over 500 messages. And on most days, over 40 missed calls. And when I got home, I religiously ate, go and lie down on the bed, and I will take out my phone and diligently return every single missed call. The messages, however, I would bring down the 500 to maybe 3 something. And then by the next night, end of the night time, to clear messages again, 7 something. And then it dawned on me that, look, if you allow this to continue, you will not be able to keep up. So the routine became clear your phone every single night. I didn't always do it. And the bad part about that is that because you couldn't always clear your phone, there are some messages that remained to the bottom of the pile for some time up to 3-4 days. So there are some people who will take 3 or 4 days to get a response. But bet your bottom dollar, a response they got. And of course, you had to return the calls. It required you to have a lot of meetings after meetings, sometimes 3 and 4 meetings a day. Then you had to out the fires that were taking place in the division or divisions. Because as chief secretary at the time, I had responsibility for tourism. And then after the 6-6, I took on the additional responsibility for the division of agriculture. So 2 divisions to manage, plus the office of the chief secretary. And then you had to ensure as chief secretary that the other secretaries did their jobs. And people will call, and people will have needs, and you have to respond to the needs, and you have to attend the meetings, and you have to give this one a hamper, and you have to give this one a food card, and you have to check this one because they want to see her. And the farmer up in Lamy Road wants you to come and check his farm. That was what the job required, only some of it. And of course, behind the scenes, there were other things that you had to deal with. And notwithstanding all of that, notwithstanding the difficulty and the challenge that it was, I enjoyed being of service to the people of Tobago. And I will say as well that the job required a lot of research and a lot of thought. Because as a chief secretary, your mind had to always be preoccupied. And I remember sometimes my wife, my very supportive and beautiful wife, would always say to me, "You seem distant." And I understood. Because a lot of times I will be in the room, but my mind on a farm. A lot of times I will be sitting on the couch in the living room, but I'm thinking about the number of new infections of COVID-19 that we had. And if the hospital will become overwhelmed, and if it become overwhelmed, what we going to do? That is what the job required. And you always had to think about what are you going to do today to make the life of Tobagonians better. Decisions to be made, some of them very difficult decisions. And the thing about decisions, and it exists now even in this party, no matter the decision you make, and no matter how good you think the decision is, there will always be somebody who will not be pleased. I've made decisions and Somebody call and say, well done, excellent decision, boy. And as I hang up the phone, somebody else call, boy, what stupidness you just did it? So, having gone through that, we got to the point of me losing an election by 2 or 3 votes. And of course, being out of office, the service continued. Because I spent even that 4-year period reflecting, learning, growing, and still serving. Whether it was hampers to needy persons, whether it was school books and supplies to children that needed them, whether it was meeting with and mentoring young men, whether it was the football clubs like the 𝐁𝐮𝐜𝐿 Football Club, and other sporting associations requiring support that had to come from my personal resources, I still continue to serve the people. And I want to say to the people of 𝐷𝐷𝐿 in particular, because there must have been reasons for your decision to not support me, where I moved from winning by 1,000 votes, then 700 and something votes, then 400 and something votes, then losing by 3 votes. And I want to say sincerely to the people of 𝐷𝐷𝐿 that whatever I may have done to displease you or cause you to lose faith and confidence in me as your assemblyman, that I am sorry. And I'm saying to you that we have learned, I've learned, we have grown, we still have some work to do. And I'm asking again for another opportunity to continue to be of service to you, the people of Tobago, in the capacity of your assemblyman and as your chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. And I think that is a good place to stop.
Well, who didn't know before? That's what we're talking about. So, folks, we want to get down to a bit of business. We would have all experienced the last almost 4 years under an administration that tried desperately to duplicate the feat of the People's National Movement. And they spread a number of narratives, again, because of their expert use in social media and getting that narrative spread through memes and all kind of digital technology. But at the end of the day, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And this evening, I want us to go back to 𝐁𝐿 Morris, the prospective candidate who served in the capacity as minority leader for the last almost 4 years, for him to give us an overview as to what we would have experienced under, and might I say, the tyranny we would have experienced under this current administration, who are soon to be the immediate past administration. Mr. Morris.
Well, for me, it has been a difficult time as a Tobagonian and as a young person in particular, because while, you know, we are of a different political party and ideology, when the results came, I took the position of Tobago first, and I genuinely hoped that these young people that would have been granted an opportunity to serve Tobago would have served in Tobago's interest. And therefore, when I began to see the kind of discrimination and victimization that was taking place immediately with respect to our contractors being blacklisted. Imagine the chief secretary would have made commitments publicly to pay those contractors and then reneged on that to the point where 4 years later, they are still owing contractors hundreds of millions of dollars. The THA contract workers who they promised as a guarantee that you will not lose your jobs. The chief secretary again reneged on that word, and hundreds of Tobagonians, I'm sure many of them might be related to you while you are listening tonight. You may know one of those persons who lost their jobs under the hand of this very wicked and heartless administration. And it has been, I want Tobagonians to understand this, $13 billion later. This is a record amount, allocation amount. It is the most money, contrary to what they are saying. It is the most money that has passed through any Tobago House of Assembly over any 4-year term. And the question we all have to ask ourselves is this: whether Tobago, whether you individually as a Tobagonian, whether you have seen the kind of development that tells you $13 billion have been spent. And as I was explaining to a resident in Darrell Spring on a walk today, because she has a business place and she was complaining about how business is tough. And I told her, just think about if you have an economy where you have $13 billion, and if where that $13 billion should have been going into the pockets of every young person, every Tobagonian that working in the THA, etc., the Tobagonian with his business on the street, the hardware, the taxi driver, etc. If that $13 billion was circulating, then at some point, some of that would have come to her. But when you take the majority of that $13 billion and you find places in Trinidad that many of us cannot even identify on the map, and the reason why they go to those locations is because they are then taking the boat and the planes, and after they have spirited away the funds, they go and get their portion, while you, the average Tobagonian, is left here to catch your royal. And they don't care. And one of the greatest examples of this kind of disregard for Tobago's allocation and for your own future and your own benefit is when I saw this. I was coming down tonight and I heard a siren. And when I looked at that siren, it was, and if anybody wants a real comparison between the PNM and this current TPP, just look at the procurement of ambulances under the People's National Movement and procurement of ambulance under the TPP. Because here it was, and this is a matter that I'm passionate about because I've heard many stories, even a child in school getting sick. When time comes, you call the ambulance. No ambulance. There are families who are telling you that they have lost loved ones because when they've called for ambulance, no ambulance, and the difference between life and death could be that little delay in response. And you are seeing a situation, that ambulance I referred to that passed me tonight with the siren is an ambulance bought by the People's National Movement, still working after 10 years. We paid for one of those ambulances, those Ford-branded ambulance, $530,000. Well, fully equipped, serving you up to today. Yet, I had to go in the bushes to find the ambulance that we paid $1.5 million, to the point that today I received a love letter asking me at the final end of it for an apology and to pay $3,400 for the words that were, the wasteful words that was printed on that love letter. And I would simply say to that gentleman, let us meet in court. Because you see, the resources of Tobago is, they complain, you hear the complaints, we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that. And yet you have wasted. And it is not just the $18 million spent for the ambulance, but it's also the $9 million during that intervening period that we had to pay to lease ambulances as well. So you spent $18 million for ambulances that still not working, not fit, dysfunctional, unfit for purpose, cannot work. And we are also leasing ambulance at night. So that is over $27 million wasted, when in fact the PNM was able to adequately and competently procure 10 ambulances, each costing you only $530,000, and up to today, we can use those ambulances. So if you want a comparison between the governance and the competence of a PNM administration as compared to the lack of governance, the lack of transparency, and the incompetence of this current administration, all you have to do is look at the procurement of those ambulances.
There's quite a lot more, but again, in the best interest of time, we want to go into our interactive session this evening because I find only a little too calm and quiet now. There's quite a lot for us to discuss, quite a lot of questions. We have some persons sending in stuff online already with respect to Buku and its development, but I want to give the first bite of the cherry for somebody in our live audience this evening. I want to say at the same time, welcome and hello to our online viewers, those on YouTube, Facebook, all over. But we are about to start our question and answer segment in terms of our conversations with the community this evening. So if you have a question, raise your hand, stand up. That sounds almost like a soca. Just come to the mic, introduce yourself. Let's make it short, sweet. We have a lot to cover this evening. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mrs. Dennis, to give us a young man, a nice baby of mine, bring him up to be our leader today, and a truthful leader. Not a leader who lie, sit down and tell lie, go to church, come back and tell lie. I don't know if you're asking God if the other fella who's the leader of our other party, just pray and ask God for forgiveness. Mr. Dennis, good night, my brother. I want to ask you a question. I feel this question is very, very hard for you to answer. There's a place down in Buku, down by the beach, and they call it Boardwalk. When last you go down there? When last you take a walk? Before the question finishes, when last you take a walk down there? You like how you're looking?
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, my question is to you, what will you do with that boardwalk when you become chief secretary? That's one question. The other question, I'm hearing that CPIP and URP will have to go. They will have to go. What you have in mind, or what you have put aside for those workers in CPIP and URP? Because these people will not have no gratuity or nothing to live on for. So, brother, I'm asking you, please, you and your people could come up with something to accommodate these people in URP and CPIP. But I wanted to answer this question with that boardwalk.
Now, the boardwalk, the Buku boardwalk, is a project very dear to my heart. Now, for those who remembered when I first entered the political arena, and who remembered my very first speeches in the district, whether Buku, Mount Pleasant, Canaan, I advanced to you the idea of a boardwalk and a beautiful beachfront and so on. We were able to deliver that to the people of Buku under my stewardship as Chief Secretary. And when we delivered it, it was greatly appreciated not only by the people of Buku, but by the people of Tobago, and I dare say the people of the world, because it became a hotspot immediately. People were going there, taking pictures. It became a popular site even for wedding photographs. I see a lot of people, all of a sudden, photo shoots, professional photo shoots were appearing all over social media at the Buku Boardwalk. And it was a place of excellence. Decent landscaping, beautiful boardwalk, and of course we had have the I Love Buku sign. Major tourism attraction here in Tobago. To my surprise, to my big surprise, this current administration has not maintained that boardwalk in any way at all. They have left it unmaintained, abandoned. They have left it to rot. At one point, they replaced some of the railings, and my last visit there revealed to me that it is actually a hazard, a trip hazard, because some of the planks are unstable. And can you imagine if a tourist or even a local, one of our elderly people from this community, God forbid, could be my mother, walking on that boardwalk and trip and fall. And that has been like that for at least the last 2 years. And I'm happy that many of you are here, notwithstanding the fact that today was not a sunny day. But you must be extremely disappointed, especially the people of Buku, that such an investment in Tobago people and in our tourism sector has been completely abandoned like that. Take a walk down there, you will see the rails rotting. And anything that is in that kind of salty environment next to the sea requires periodic maintenance. If you don't maintain it, it will fall apart. And I can tell you without fear of contradiction that they have not even hired any team, any contractor, or even a CPEP or a URP team to maintain the boardwalk. There is no maintenance happening, none. And I will simply, when we get back into office, fix it, invest some money into it, replace the rails that need to be replaced, and find a local contractor from this community to maintain the boardwalk. It's that simple. In terms of CPEP and URP, the policy of this current administration in partnership with the UNC central government is to close it down. We in the PNM intend to reverse that when you put us back into office. And they're just waiting for the election. After the election, you put them back there, they will close it down and do exactly what they did in Trinidad, where 40,000 people are now on the breadline. But here is the challenge. Even when we get back there, they will not give any allocation to the CPEP and URP program. Because in the last budget, there was no allocation. And of course, we had the dishonest Secretary of Finance doing all kind of gymnastics, political gymnastics, and mathematical gymnastics to tell us that the funding for CPEP under some program down in the ministry vote in Trinidad. You in Tobago in the THA, how you getting money from a ministry vote in Trinidad to fund your CPEP program? If they wanted to fund the CPEP and URP program, they would have put the money in the THA allocation so that we have it right here in Tobago. But notwithstanding that, once we get our money that is legally due to us in the Tobago House of Assembly, which is a minimum 4.03%, we will identify and set aside as a priority the required funding to continue the CPEP and URP program.
Natasha.
Suppose I didn't want people to know my name. I just say suppose.
Suppose what?
Good evening, everyone. He said my name, so I said suppose I didn't want persons to know my name.
Oh, yeah.
That's just a little nonsense. So bear with me, because, you know, I former village council president, so I focus on my area intensely. So I have a few questions or points to raise. I also have a little gift for you that I will give you thereafter.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love gifts.
Yes. You will see what the gift is. You'll understand it's to get to work with the gift. So I'm happy that you mentioned the boardwalk, but I also want to extend it to the beachfront. I was thinking about solar lighting panels for the beachfront. It is one of the most sought-after beaches on the island, and as a matter of fact, in parts of the Caribbean, if I may say so boldly. And I was thinking about that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. But in addition to that is a sporting facility. Buku has netball courts, basketball courts, tennis courts. And if it's not the only tennis court with a back wall, it most definitely was the first tennis court with a back wall. And it's not being maintained. So I would ask you, Mr. Ansel Dennis, when you return as not only the person to represent the electoral district, but once we cross the line and you're chief secretary, that you put some emphasis on that. Buku is known as a fishing village. And in recent time, we would have changed the use of the facility for fishing into an agro-processing center, agro-technical processing center. I am not sure if that was the development of Tobago in a community that it didn't match well, or I don't know what your thoughts are on that, and if there's thoughts to return it to fishing, as in this area, in terms of having courses that are sea-ready, fish-ready, that kind of thing. That's my thought on that. What are your plans for that facility? And we mentioned contracting and contractors of Tobago. That's a pet peeve for me, because for a while, our contractors have been slighted, and they are now out of pocket and out of favor with the banks. And if a contractor in Tobago is out of favor with the banks and out of pocket, and we want them to be empowered, would there be some sort of fund created to empower these persons in order for them to pick up contracts when they are given contracts in the Tobago space? Because at the state they are in now, I am not sure that they could just jump out and start a contract. So is there some sort of funding to empower them? And the other two ideas that I have for my beautiful community, I believe it's very tourist-based, and I believe it's the hub in your electoral district for such tourist activities. So one, I have a proposal. If you check your email, you would see a proposal for the annual Buku Seafood Festival. I want you to pay close attention to it. This proposal, when I was in the village council, we did it. It was recently revised. It was sent, and I am really hoping that, you know, some sort of focus could be placed on it. It would add to the calendar of events. And it could be tweaked and so on, because obviously it's only some ideas that were generated into it. So we would welcome other ideas to add to that Buku Annual Seafood Festival. In addition, I have a passport here for you. Aww. It's called the Buku Passport. Yes. This was a product that was launched by the Buku Village Council and never really took off. In the passport, And I bought one for you to work out on because
Well, I will.
yeah. I bought.
I want to know if
So Marilyn ain't getting nothing.
count.
Marilyn ain't getting nothing. So this Buku passport has features in it. When you come to Buku, you have a space where you can go around. In it has visa stamps. So when you pay, your visa was stamped. That will allow you to enter these spaces and to enjoy these items. And I want these. Thank you. I want these two things that I'm presenting to you. And this is me. I did them when I was at the Village Council, so it's on behalf of the Village Council. But I want you, if you make it over there, well, we're not saying if you, when you, I want you to pay particular attention to these items because I really think that it can enhance our product in this space and eventually throughout Tobago, and we could become a model society for the Caribbean. I thank you.
Definitely.
Keep it coming, keep it coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You want to thank the immigration officer?
Now,
You want to respond very quickly
yeah, let me
to the questions
respond.
first,
Let me respond.
and then we go to the
quickly.
next one.
Now, so I'll respond to the last one first about the fund. Now, we have been thinking, right? We have a policy committee in the PNM that is working on the vision and tweaking it and so on. And we're doing that in consultation with the people. We, as you would know, we had 2 community consultations, one in Delaford, one in 𝐿𝐼𝐶, as we build out this vision and so on. As leader, I've been meeting with farmers, fishermen, sporting organizations, community organizations, getting their feedback on what they want to see as part of the PNM's vision. But that thing you mentioned there is extremely important because, as I've been saying, we intend to immediately, if the election is today and the swearing in is tomorrow is what? Wednesday? By Thursday, all the Tobago contractors will have to pick back up their tools and find the equipment wherever they have it. Now, we're going to have to look at ways because Ms. Chance is right. The banks now have zero confidence in the construction sector. So it will be extremely difficult for any Tobago contractor, having not been able to pay their bills and their loans to the bank for the last 4 years, and the bank now having come to a position where a contract from the THA is now like toilet paper. Right? No value because of how this THA behaved. So we will have to look at, firstly, trying to pay them as quickly as possible the money that is owed to them. Because at least if they get that, they can use that money to mobilize, to start executing projects and bring out the 2,000 workers that have been sent home, right? And immediately start putting money back into Tobagonians' pockets and money back into the Tobago economy that we have been starved of for the last 4 years. Another thing we will have to look at is to increase the size of the mobilization that we will normally give to contractors. Sometimes the larger contractors, in the past, we would have them tender for projects, get awarded the projects, and start with zero mobilization. On this occasion, we will look at giving them at least a 50% mobilization. Right? So I believe that will help and allow them to at least start, and then once we resolve the issues with timely payments, then we may not even need to start a fund. And once the banks see that happening, Republic Bank, Scotia Bank, JMMB Bank, right? FCB Bank, once the banks see that happening, then the confidence will be restored gradually. And then when they realize that a new chief is in town who cares about Tobago, then it will be a lot easier for the contractors to benefit. Let me just go quickly to the beachfront. We are proposing that Tobago must have its first lighted beach in Buku. Now, of course, before the environmentalists come for me, let me just say to you that it is something that we are researching in terms of the kind of light, how we're going to place the lights, how we're going to direct the lights, and the softness of the light so that it does not affect the sea turtles coming into nest. But the idea behind that is to have the first beach in Tobago that could lend itself to nighttime activities, fun, safe, nighttime activities. And no, it's not what someone having on their head. Right? It simply means that if you're on the beach, 6 o'clock, you want to take a bath taking the sunset 5 o'clock. You don't have to rush to leave the beach as it gets dark. You could stay there till 7, 8 o'clock. Or if you and your friends want to go to the beach and have a nightlife, you could do that safely at this beach in Buku. And we're not going to do it to the whole beach. It's just a portion of the beach that we're going to provide that for. Of course, we got to clean up the beachfront. It is something that we did before. I am sure Buku people remember when we removed all the derelict boats and you had your whole beachfront for yourself. Of course, this administration came in and it went right back to where it was before. Right? So the other question in terms of sporting facility, we are going to, of course, upgrade not just the tennis court in Buku, but there are a number of dilapidated sporting facilities across the island. The one in Mount Pleasant, the one in 𝐿𝐮𝐿. We are going to upgrade all of those facilities, again, using local community-based contractors. Nobody can come from Trinidad to refurbish a tennis court under the PNM. And finally, as part of our vision, because the vision is already basically completed, it is in draft form, we're still doing some additional consultations before we put it to you, the people of Tobago. And in that vision for the community of Buku, we intend to refurbish, well, not even refurbish, but to transform that undersized playing field into a training size AstroTurf football arena. And next to it, we are going to establish an indoor cricket facility which will have 2 or 3 nets so that our young cricketers could go there and train and bat against bowling machine. And we are going to name that facility after our recently deceased cricket hero, Mr. John Pollard. Right? So that's it for sport in this district. There was another question, what was it? The Buku passport. Yes, the Buku passport. Now, the Buku passport started off as the Buku experience. Because one of the things I did as representative, I took my job seriously. So every single year, at a certain time in the year, I schedule meetings with every single community organization in the electoral district, all the village councils, all the steel bands, all the youth organizations, all the sports clubs. And the conversation was, what are your plans for the year? How can I help you? And of course, I will also share ideas in terms of what I think we can collaborate on and achieve for the district. So this started off as something called the Buku experience, where we felt that, look, in Buku we have 3 main things that people should come and experience. 3 wonders of Buku. Buku Nair Steel Orchestra, the Buku Reef, crab and goat racing, and the beach. I think it was 4. Well, Sunday school was more, wasn't 3, was more. Sunday school. So there were several experiences. So all of it is in the passport. So, of course, it evolved into the Buku passport, and the idea is that we're going to sell these passports to even the cruise ships so that they could purchase this on the cruise ship, when they get to Tobago, make their way to Buku with the passport, and this passport will guarantee them a Buku dish, right? Maybe kongs or fish or whatever. Access to boat racing, a boat racing experience, access to the reef, access to the beach, and if they can stay for it, the Buku Sunday School. Because it's not just for the cruise ships, it's for tourists generally, visitors from Trinidad, and even the locals. And I'm going to tell you what I will do. I will symbolically keep this passport. And by the time this is launched, in time for the cruise ship season of 2027, I've given myself enough time, and I've given the administration enough time. By the time this is launched, in time for the cruise season, or the tourist season, or the winter season, whatever you want to call it, in 2027, I will be coming to Buku with this passport as one of the very first tourists. So, let me put it in my back pocket like the election did.
Before we have the next live question, just one of online. Minority Leader, you piqued the interest of someone who wants to know what is being put in place to address the ambulance gate debacle.
Well, just as an update, I can tell you the matter is at an advanced stage of investigation. Just quite recently, last week, as a matter of fact, the OPR investigators, they were back in Tobago doing some final touch-up because they were quite interested in the location of that derelict brand new ambulance. So they were able to find the location. They were able to find the location, and I can tell you they're quite, so the matter is at an advanced stage. And you know, I simply want to say to Tobagonians, this is the importance, one, of having a PNM administration in a position that actually knows what it is doing. So that even though we were but one, because of the kind of exposure you get in the party that is the People's National Movement, it prepares you for governance regardless where it may take you.
Very much.
Good night, everyone. Thank you. Good night, everyone. I want to open my questions by saying we are ready for a Buku boy because we're fed up with for sunny days. I have several questions that fall under different categories. So for the categories I have, for the interest of time, I have community development and infrastructure, tourism and local economy, youth and education, community safety, environment and sustainability, transportation and mobility, communication and representation, and future visions. It's a total of 20 questions, but for the interest of time, I'm going to ask just the most important ones.
I hope they're multiple choice.
He better pass. So for the community development, what are your immediate plans for the infrastructure, not just in Buku, but for Mount Pleasant and Canaan? So I'm going to ask the questions you can answer. How do you intend to maintain the infrastructure, because that's a big thing? And what would be your timestamps to deliver? That's one. For the tourism and local economy, Buku is a major tourism hub, and the boardwalk was completed in 2021 November, right before the THA elections. However, by the next year, we saw how it ran down because of lack of upkeep, right? With that being said, the I Love Buku sign, brilliant idea, but some persons thought the location was questionable. How do you plan to fix that? This is me asking based on what I do. So I am a concierge. I have to sell the things in Tobago. And selling buku is saying the buku reef. People know the buku reef. But when they come to buku, the fishermen are there cleaning fish. So they are not getting proper pictures to help us sell our vision.
Right.
So my question is, would that plan be revisited and upgraded? And what is your plans for the fishermen in Buku? For the
Let's give him time to respond so we don't lose track.
Yeah. So, first question about community development and the maintenance of it. Now, thank God for the Orville London PNM that when it comes to community infrastructure, no future administration, the one now or the next PNM administration, will have a lot to do. For example, I do not know of any community in this part of the island that doesn't have a community center. Let's look at the district. You have the Buku Community Center. You have the Mount Pleasant Community Center. And we have the 𝐿𝐭𝐻 Community Center. Close to that, you have Lowlands. You have so many community centers. What I will guarantee is that we will increase the number of activities, training programs, mentorship programs, youth programs, health programs, mental health programs at the community center. So our vision is to ensure that every community center across the island, every single day, there is some activity taking place throughout the day. Right? Now, in terms of maintenance and upliftment, we have to do a lot better at maintaining our facilities. And we're going to treat with that as part of the community-based infrastructural development program. Because under that program, I identified it as a program that will allow the community-based contractors and skilled tradesmen to be the ones to take responsibility for fixing the infrastructural issues within their districts and within their communities. And also included in that will be the maintenance of those facilities. So we're not going to wait for a community center to run all the way down to where the toilet now work, the paint peeling off the building, the tiles mashing up. We're not going to wait for it to come to that. Even the tennis courts, the Buku tennis court, I was there recently playing some cricket with the young men, and it is in a state, the fence have holes, the basketball ring break down. We should not wait for facilities to get to that point to fix it. From the time an issue arises, as a matter of fact, we should identify periodic time frames which we must do maintenance of our facilities, whether it be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, every year as the case might be. So under the PNM, it is our aim and objective that no community facility must get to the state of the Buku boardwalk and the Buku tennis court, hard court. And I think the hard court in 𝐿𝐭𝐻 is also in a mess. No facility must get to that point before maintenance is done. There is something called preventative maintenance or periodic maintenance, and we will simply utilize the community-based infrastructural development program to ensure that is done. The I Love Buku sign. Now, I deliberately told the planners to put the sign right there on the jetty, because the agreement was that the fishermen will maintain their area. We agreed that, look, they're not going to be leaving their gas jugs. They're not going to be leaving their garbage and anything like that on the jetty. But the idea was really for the tourists to coexist with the fishermen. So it was my vision to see on Instagram and Facebook and so on, videos and pictures of tourists, visitors to the island, side by side with the fishermen, holding the catch, holding a lobster in their hand, purchasing some fish at the same time. That was the idea. We didn't want it to be like the I Love Tobago sign. We wanted it to really highlight the daily experience, because it is my belief that this is what the tourists come here for, to experience our way of life. And having the sign there was an opportunity for them to have a closer interaction with our fishermen. But I must admit that it has not been working as intended, and therefore we have to change the approach. And this leads me to the final question you asked: what are the plans for the fishermen? So the intention is, and you're going to see it reflected in our vision for this community, is to expand the current fishing facility, because that was always the plan. So we're going to expand it, give the fishermen more space, give them more cold storage facilities to store their fish. And we are also going to look at establishing a separate jetty on that side, which is likely to be a floating arrangement so that the fishermen could access that facility. In addition to that, we're going to expand the existing jetty to be able to accommodate more tour boats. Because currently, if a reef boat is there loading people and a fisherman comes in, he had to wait, or a next reef boat comes in, that reef boat had to wait. So we want to expand that to accommodate more vessels. Because it is my belief that if the reef named 𝐿𝐿𝐿 Reef, then 𝐿𝐿𝐿 Reef should be the main departure point for tours to the reef. And I'm not taking anything away. I see Dominic watching me hard. No, sir, I'm not taking anything away from Storby or Pigeon Point. But I'm just saying 𝐿𝐿𝐿 has always been the main starting point of tours to the 𝐿𝐿𝐿 Reef. So we want to return that infrastructure, to expand it so that we can have that happening again. And I must say, I see a number of young men from this community investing in the sector, and I'm very happy about that. I see Xavi Roberts doing his thing along with his cousin. And I want to publicly congratulate Xavi and others for doing it the right way. Because I will say this, because a lot of people don't like me because at times I talk straight. And the straight talk is this: in that reef boat sector, we have operators doing a lot of foolishness. And it has to stop, right? We have to get to the point where every single reef boat operating on our marine park and carrying visitors from all over the world must do so safely and responsibly. And it leads me to tourism sector regulation, because that is something we're not going to play with. There must never be another time where a reef boat sink in the marine park because it overloaded. There must never be another time where a reef boat is without the required safety equipment in sufficient numbers for the number of passengers that they are licensed to carry. That must not happen again. And you see, this thing about a reef tour is now a situation where you zoom across no man's land, you stop, you pass through the 𝐿𝐿𝐿 Reef. They're not even telling the people what is a fire coral, what is a brain coral, what species of fish is that. You just boom into the nylon pool, jump out the boat for 10 minutes, they hurry in the visitors back in the boat, a set of hard pong, cigarette smoke killing people, weed smoke killing people, bad water around children. What is that? That is not the tourism sector we want to build. So why I'm saying, I congratulate Xavi for how they are doing it. They are now setting a standard. And I hope that other reef operators follow. And even if they don't want to follow, under the next PNM administration, they will be legally required to follow.
So I'm going to give you one more question.
Yeah, so he would have answered.
We have someone to the back and then we have an online question.
So with his latter, he would have answered my question with environment and stability, so he would have answered that. So I'm moving on to youth development and education. So I'm doing that into one question. What are your plans for the youths, not just of Buku, but for Mount Pleasant? Because we are seeing now that a lot of youths are being involved with crime and all that kind of thing. And the last question is what measures you would put in place to strengthen the communication between yourself and your electoral district. Thank you.
Right. So I'll answer the last one first. How will we improve the communication? I think there are some things we can do differently. As I said before, I had an arrangement where I had periodic meetings, yearly in fact, with the community organizations. I am going to increase that to twice yearly. As one. Two, we did explore the idea of having roving district days, because I'm sure my electoral district staff remember me coming even to this community center to see the people in Buku. And at times we went to 𝐿𝐻𝐻 to see the people in 𝐿𝐻𝐻. And of course, well, the people in Mount Pleasant had the office. So we are going to continue with those kinds of interventions to give people greater access to their area representatives. The other thing that we will do overall, not just for this district, is to ensure the complete digitization of access to public services, not just in the divisions of the THA, but through the offices of the assemblymen. Plans for youth. The young people, not just in this electoral district, but across Tobago, can look forward to more opportunities. Opportunities in terms of jobs. I will tell you at some point, now we're going to create 7,000 new jobs in our first term of office. But as we go along, I will tell you exactly how we are going to create them, through tourism, through agriculture, through the construction sector, through clean, renewable energy. And not only jobs, but we are also going to create opportunities through entrepreneurship and through sports. Now, one of the things that we are suffering from is lazy secretaries. Secretaries who are just lazy. They get up, they go to work, they're not prepared to think, they're not prepared to research, they're not prepared to come with new plans, or new. Ask yourself, what new did this administration bring to Tobago? Nada. What new? What new did the secretary responsible for sport bring? The refurbished couple tennis courts that the PNM built, and they're still telling people the PNM ain't done nothing. So the PNM ain't done nothing, but the tennis court you refurbished that the PNM built is something. But what new came to sport? Why we can't have a situation where we can have a deliberate pipeline where talented footballers, talented cricketers and other sporting disciplines can have direct access to be looked at by clubs and other community disciplines in terms of schools, colleges, etc. overseas. Why it had to happen by chance? Why it had to happen through SAT? We have to have a deliberate arrangement. And it's easy to work out. It's not rocket science. When people, and they love to travel, when you travel, it's an opportunity to develop those kinds of relationships and develop those kinds of programs. We have too many talented athletes here that simply don't get an opportunity to be seen by anybody. And that is something that we will ensure that we fix and that we have arrangements in place where talented people would have access to trials and access to opportunities outside of this country. Now, separate and apart, of course, we want to develop the best talent. We want to have the best footballers here. We want to have the best cricketers here so that we can have the best sporting teams. And Trinidad and Tobago could qualify for the World Cup. When is it again? Next 4 years? That is the next opportunity. And we can have other cricketers apart from Joshua James making it into the regional and international circuit. And that is going to happen. And let me just add that we intend to bring a number of new sporting facilities. The THA's development expenditure is $500 million per year. Through public-private partnership, there are unlimited opportunities for funding to execute projects. It's just that this administration, as I said before, they are lazy and they are not doing their work. Because when you put us back in office, we are not going to sit and complain and tell you, oh, we don't have enough money. You have to go and look for it. It's a hustle. You see them in the wrong hustle, them hustling for kickbacks. You have to hustle to find opportunities for grant funding, for public-private partnerships, to do things for your island. That is how you feel St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Barbados and all those countries developed their islands and they didn't have oil like us. Public-private partnership. You can build sporting facilities. You can build hotels. You can build cruise ship infrastructure. Public-private partnership. So we're going to pursue a lot of that. We're bringing the international cricket stadium. We're bringing the new home for motorsports. We're bringing the indoor sporting complex in Bacolet, and it will be named after Bertil Sinclair. We're bringing the home of sport in Canaan, and we're going to determine who we will name that after. Apart from the indoor cricket facility in Buku that I said we're going to name after John Pollard, we're going to put a similar facility up at Sidgray Complex.
Thank you very much. Before the next live question, we have someone, and I'll paraphrase, there's a lot that he would have said. There's a serious concern about the safety of vessels and the engines. And there have been spikes in the theft of engines off of a lot of boats, pirogues, fishermen losing the engine, reef tow operators losing the engines. What are the plans to ensure that there is security for persons owning yachts and pirogues and various seaworthy vessels?
Now, this current administration loves to say that the security of this island is a 6th schedule item. You're going to see a change in that posture when you elect another PNM administration. And no, we're not going to take over the responsibility of national security. But national security is national security. But there's something called Tobago security. And in our vision, you will see a plan to be rolled out for Tobago security. And I will say to you that for the first time, when you elect the next PNM administration, there will be a division of legal affairs and public safety. Now, the division of, why a division of, I'll get to the security question, but why a division of legal affairs? typically, the THA, and understandably so, while we do not have the lawmaking powers to make the laws on our own, we do have the authority to bring assembly bills. But the catch is that they must go to cabinet and then the parliament. Guess what? The law allows us to bring assembly bills. If it's assembly bills they want, it's assembly bills they're going to get. So you are going to see a legislative agenda where we will bring, well, we have in that legislative agenda as part of the vision, no less than 12 bills to fix issues here in Tobago. There's a marine park bill, there will be a Scarborough enhancement bill, there will be a fisheries regulation bill, there will be a tourism sector regulation bill, there will be an environmental protection bill. All of those pieces of legislation that we hope will be supported by the cabinet and the parliament will help us to fix several issues in Tobago, and that is where the legal affairs division will come in to ensure that we're able to pilot, draft those bills, do the research, and bring them to the THA. So this once a month sitting, where you come and you debate motions and you have a talk shop, because the motion don't even take any effect. They brought a motion some time ago. Pension was the last motion. They bring a motion to give one term as pension. And well, we saw the reason for that, because they wanted to fire people like Trevor James and YT and Sonny Craig and others. Well, I heard they back down on Trevor James. Trevor James large and in charge. But that is not our business. But the point I'm making, we have to move our assembly beyond once a month sittings. And you go there once a month and you debate a motion. What motion could do for you, the people of Tobago? What can a motion do that the division already can't do? We need to move beyond that and exercise the authority given to us by law to introduce assembly bills, debate them, and pass them. And if they go to Trinidad and they stay there, then at least we would have done our part. And that is the intention of having a legal affairs division. Now, in terms of safety, we are going to collaborate with the TTPS, right? And that is possible. The THA has been collaborating with the TTPS, and under the next PNM administration, that collaboration will continue to ensure that we have 2 separate policing units established in Tobago. Or I should say returned to Tobago. Because at one point in time, I remember we had a tourism-oriented policing unit that was focused on protecting our beaches and our tourism hotspots. We are going to cause that to return, and to return for the long haul, and to return in an effective manner. And if your THA has to take your resources, your money, and provide the bicycles, and provide whatever is required for that unit to operate, then we will do so. The other unit that we are going to establish is a marine patrol unit to ensure exactly what that question is about, protecting the assets on water, whether it be yachts, whether it be fishing vessels, etc., and also to patrol the marine park to ensure the safety and security of our visitors coming to this island.
Thank you very much. As we are about to wind down, I'll give room for 3 final questions very quickly. I'll ask the 3 persons to please line up at the microphone. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3. Ask your question very quickly, and you can move out of the way, and then we'll give our guys the opportunity to respond. One after the other.
Okay. Good night, everyone. When the Minister of Labor was giving his debate, the Minister of Finance said, stop hustle and beg.
You said what?
Stop hustle and beg.
Right.
Right? So, I come with this. I got it. For years now, we in Tobago been begging for extra flights. I fed up see market people stranded for flights to go to Trinidad. I heard you talk about BW and so, but I never heard you talk about Tobago Express. That was once owned by Tobago. So my thing is, if it's Caribbean Airlines saying that it don't make sense with the inter-transport to Tobago, it don't profiting them, why do you think it's best THA invest their own plane?
Very good question.
That will help tourists, because I had a conversation with someone that came from Miami for the Tobago Carnival, and that was the topic. If it is that Tobago cannot fix the inter-island transport, it's going to crash the economy of tourists.
Thank you very much. Next question, quickly.
All protocol observed.
Taking all the questions first. All right.
All protocol observed. To the Chief Secretary, you continue to talk about the redevelopment of Tobago, and Tobago is really a destiny for tourism. Previously, we were speaking about having a marina in Tobago. I would like to know if it's still on the board. Number two is that we had opportunities of having 2 hotels coming to Tobago, the Sandals and the Marriott. I want to know if, when you take office, if you are going to open back those negotiations, because it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And final question. To the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. Everyone will know me as Monique Pereira, Winston Pereira's daughter. My question is tourism-based as well. As someone who grew up in tourism, my father grew up in tourism as well. One of the things we have realized is that the tourism sector in the past 4 years, not throwing any shade, has really come to a standstill. All right, and one of the things that we have experienced is the lack thereof of human resource availability, meaning there are not much persons who are trained and skilled in certain aspects as house cleaning or even just general administration or waitressing. Persons will rather, there's no more passion towards those jobs. People see it as a side hustle rather than, and we have a lovely school here called THTI. What I would like to know is what's the plans with regards to strengthening that part to make it very accessible to hoteliers, guest house, and especially with the gentleman before me who spoke about the hotels coming on board with us. We have to be realistic with ourselves. If it is we don't have skilled and trained persons, especially in the customer service aspect, we are going to fall long on that aspect. And I would like to give a suggestion, if you are open to it. It was an idea that I held very close to my heart, which would be a student exchange, where persons will go to like Switzerland and all these places and study under them, and they will exchange their human resource with us. And that will also strengthen our product as a tourism-based island.
And
yeah?
It wouldn't cost, and it wouldn't cost 25 million a year.
Exactly.
So the last one first. We intend to bring a University of Tobago. It, of course, has been talked about for some time, but I could tell you we have a plan, and we know how to get it done, and we will get it done. And it's going to include 5 different campuses now, or 5 different schools is what I should say. And don't get me wrong, the intention is not to go and build a big school and call it a university. We're just going to pull different institutions together, partner with either a local institution or recognized international universities, and bring the training programs to Tobago. The Kendall School of Agriculture, the same THTI that she just mentioned, a School of Marine Sciences, either in Buko or Castara, a Tobago Technical and Trade School, and a Tobago Performing Arts Academy. Now, in terms of what she mentioned, we have to change people's perception of our tourism sector. And we are going to change that in several ways. One, we're going to increase training. Two, you will see reflected in our vision as well, a commitment to tweaking. We're not going to attempt to overhaul it, but we're just going to tweak our school curriculum to include, of course, things like Tobago history, but more importantly, or just as important, customer service, hospitality, and an understanding of the value of the tourism sector. Right? Now, we also intend to move Tobago towards being positioned as a premier wedding destination, wedding and romance destination. And we already have a lot of weddings taking place. There are a number of persons already specialized in destinations weddings. And I want to give those people my commitment that we are going to improve that aspect of our tourism. And I'm never vague, so I will give details. Number one, we will identify and improve specific locations in terms of beaches. We're going to build out other public spaces, such as the green social spaces that I spoke about. The botanical gardens will be totally transformed. Charlottesville beachfront. So we're going to improve several locations, identify them, and sell them as potential scenic, beachfront, natural, and other kinds of locations in Tobago to get married. We are also, as I said before, going to include the possibility of getting married at a Moriah old-time wedding. Imagine you have a Moriah old-time wedding going on, and 7, 8, or 9 foreign couples. Or I don't know if you might want to renew your vows there. When you just renew your vows at 10 years, 20 years, 10 years, you closer to 10 years than me, ain't? I married before you? God. Well, my 10th year is next year, right? So, but seriously, it's an opportunity for us to encourage more international recognition of that festival. And I see no challenge with having our visitors coming. They could do if they want, they could do this ceremony elsewhere. They could sign the, let's call that the register and thing elsewhere. And then they come and participate in that Moriah old-time wedding. Of course, they have to pay, because you will bring the food, we bring in the bridal party, we bring in the entertainment. You're going to get one of the biggest weddings possible, because the whole of Tobago will be there to witness it. And that will be part of our offering as a wedding destination. In addition to that, we're going to do an annual expo to encourage tour operators, airlines, cruise operators, and so on, to come and participate and see and learn about our wedding and romance tourism sector in Tobago. And finally, we're going to provide targeted training to develop more photographers, to develop more wedding planners, to develop even more caterers, to develop more videographers and so on, so that we can introduce new people to this sector. Because once it takes off, the business and the opportunities that will come as a result of that will overwhelm our current capacity. So we're going to prepare for that. But the other aspect of it is customer service. We have to improve our customer service on the island. Simple. Right? What's the other question, quickly? Right. Air bridge. Now, be rest assured that the next THA administration under the PNM will not sit on our hands. And let me show you what it means to sit on your hands. Sit on your hands like this and try to do anything. Try to grab that water bottle. You can't. You can't act, you can't do anything. We are not going to sit on our hands like this and complain to Cal and beg Minister of Finance and beg Prime Minister, send flights. No. The sea bridge generally works, the air bridge generally works except for peak periods. Carnival, Easter, July, August period. And there will be other peak periods because Ms. Chance mentioned the Buku Seafood Festival. And one of the things we're going to promote Tobago as is a festival island. So we want to get to the point where we have so many festivals on our calendar, whether it be Seafood Festival, Blue Food Festival, Fisherman Fete here, Carnival October, Carnival February, which we're going to remodel. That February Carnival can be remodeled and target a different sector and be saved. This current administration intends to destroy it, but we can save that Carnival and have it target the more traditional mass players. Well, that is another story by itself. You didn't ask me about that. So we're going to include, of course, sports tourism as a part of that festival's calendar. So the Dragon Boat Festival will have to come back. The Regatta got to come back. The Cycle Classic got to come back. We're going to bring CPL through the International Stadium. We're going to bring a motor sporting event, a major motor sporting event or events. We have the Heritage Festival. And we can partner with other communities to execute other festivals that will bring visitors to our island. We're going to bring back jazz. We're going to bring back jazz. Of course, they killed it. Didn't have it for a year. Then decided they're going to try to bring it back as something else called a Rhythm and Soul Festival. It doesn't matter what you call it, it's jazz. Right? So we're going to bring that back. But during those periods, travel will spike. And the travel that will spike will include people that are willing to pay more than $400 because they want to come to Tobago no matter what. And what your THA will do is that we will explore our options as it relates to chartered flights through other airline companies. And once those chartered flights, so you can have chartered flights on the domestic level, Trinidad to Tobago and back, to assist Caribbean Airlines, and therefore whether or not they add additional flights, we will put our own arrangements in place that the customers will have to pay for, right? The THA will not be subsidizing that, but the customers will have to pay for that. So if you want to book a flight through that chartered arrangement, it's going to cost a little more. But because you have those festivals happening and you have the activities to drive the traffic, people will be willing to pay the price because it will be still cheaper to go, cheaper than going to Barbados, cheaper than going to Grenada, or cheaper than going to any other Caribbean destination. Of course, we're going to also explore our international options. Because if you can get airlines to fly directly to Tobago without having to pass through Port of Spain just to come to our carnival, then you will be relieving some of the pressure on the domestic bridge. But it's not only air, it's also sea. So especially for October Carnival, we are going to go after the cruise lines and tell them this is a period where your cruise ship does probably be under maintenance with nothing to do. Give us a cruise ship with maybe 3,000 or 4,000 capacity. Tell us a price. Let us work out an arrangement. You will have the system to collect the money and so on. We sell it to the Trinidad market. The Trinidadians who want to have that experience could book it. So when they're ready to come to Carnival, they do have to book airfare or ferry ticket. They're booking a cruise. And it will be a cruise where they leave Port of Spain the Thursday before Carnival or whenever we decide. They come to Tobago. The ship will remain in the port in Tobago. They are fed on land, fed on the cruise ship. They are Nirvana. Right? Of course. They have beaches. They have all of Tobago for themselves for that entire weekend, day and night, and they will sleep and eat and drink on the cruise ship. Those are the opportunities that are out there, that we will not be lazy like these people, and we are going to pursue them. Again, it is a hustle. You have to get up and get it. It will not come to you. You have to be innovative. You have to think, and you have to pursue it. And the final thing I will say as we are on planes, whenever you see Chief Secretary or Secretary of Tourism announces to you that we're going to fly, just know that it will not be to go to Tobago Day, to eat food and drink and have a good time, and then to lie to you that we have 12 investors lined up that we never identified as yet. When we jump on a plane, just know that it is to go to meet directly with some serious international or regional organization to pursue a meaningful opportunity for business, for investment, for public-private partnership, or something of the sort on behalf of you, the people of Tobago. And we will not come back empty-handed. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of this evening. I would invite Minority Leader in 2 minutes to give his closing remarks, and then Mr. Dennis to close us off with our clarion call this evening. Minority Leader.
Well, I just... Your mic down?
So, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to the People's National Movement's conversation. This is a conversation about really presenting to you a vision that is about putting Tobago and Tobagonians first, because we all could admit that over the last 4 years, Tobagonians have been placed last while others have been benefiting from the resources of Tobago. And I want to speak specifically in my 1 minute to us, the PNM membership. I want to make a clarion call tonight for us to put aside petty differences and recognize that Tobago needs us more now than ever. Trinidad and Tobago needs us more now than ever. And I'm saying for us to put aside self and let us right within this party put Tobago first. We have a leader, a man that has just gave us a vision that can really advance this island. And we have to think not just about ourselves, but the generation of Tobagonians to come, our children and our children's children. And therefore, I'm asking us as a party and a people for us to first join, because it has to start here with us. And then we take it out to the wider Tobago population. But Tobago has to see from the PNM unity and that kind of support for our political leader who will be the next chief secretary, and it starts with us supporting him. So I want us to join that movement, come together, and let us move in ensuring that we rescue Tobago. Thank you.
Mr. Dennis.
Well, I think this was an excellent conversation. I want to thank the minority leader for joining me. It was indeed a pleasure being next to him to have this conversation with you. I thank all of you for coming out, notwithstanding the weather. And just to let you know that this is about Tobago. This is not about me. This is not about 𝐁𝐿. This is not even about the PNM. This is about Tobago and the future of Tobago. And that is why we are saying that on this occasion, you have to forget everything else. Forget party colors. Forget who you like and who you ain't like. Forget everything else and put Tobago first again.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you to stand with me this evening. Let's all stand, shake off the sleep. Those of us who have to drive far, who time to wake up, turn to the person to your right and to your left and tell them, thanks for coming this evening.
Thanks for coming this evening, man.
Shake the hand, give them a hug up. Shake it strong, wake them up this evening. And as we are about to close, just join hands with that same person. And let's close in a word of prayer. Father, we want to thank you this evening for a meeting, God, that has been ordained for a time like now, and that you had predestined for this evening. I pray, God, that as your people leave this place, Lord, that they would leave this building, but not your presence. Give your angels charge over all of us. Take us to our homes in safety. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for coming.